Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live. My name's Dale Parrish. I'm the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana. And let me come on the screen here so you can see me. So let me see where I'm at here. There I am. Okay. Again, welcome. The purpose of this broadcast is to reach out to those of you in the state of Indiana that, as well as outside of the state of Indiana, but those of you that are interested in learning more about Convention of States and our purpose and what we're all about. So this is, like I said, this whole presentation or this whole broadcast is for the benefit of those of you wanting to learn more about Convention of States. Now, we have a great program lined up for you tonight. As usual, we'll be doing the first part of the program. I'll be talking about the basics of Convention of States. And then the second part of the program, we're going to be interviewing our guest tonight, Rodney Huckelberry. Rodney is the regional director for the region that the state of Indiana is part of. So we'll be meeting him and learning more about what he does as a regional director. So let me bring on my PowerPoint presentation and we'll get started on the presentation on the basics of Convention of States. All right, now I'm told that in order for everyone to be able to see this clearly, I need to go to the slideshow option in PowerPoint, and we should have that up now. So everyone should be able to see this very clearly, and you should still be able to hear me. So let's get started and get through the basics of Convention of States. First of all, I want you to understand that we have various resources available to us here in Indiana, as well as nationally. And the very first resource that we have is our website. And this is a national website, conventionofstates.com. You'll hear us make reference to this website a number of times in our broadcast this evening, but it is, like I said, it is our main website and our main resource. Embedded in that main website is also our state website page, conventionofstates.com/Indiana. So you'll want to look at that when you're on the Convention of States website. We also have various parts of social media that we're involved in. We are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Convention of States Indiana. As a matter of fact, this broadcast tonight is being presented through that Facebook page. Also, we have a YouTube channel, COS Indiana. Now, the YouTube channel is available to you as more as an educational resource. We have a number of presentations on the channel regarding various aspects of Convention of States. We also have links to a number of podcasts that our Vice State Director, Paul Phillips, does on a regular basis. So, like I said, a number of educational resources are available to you. We're also on Twitter now, #COS Indiana, and we also are in the process of creating a presence on Instagram. So we have a number of resources, a number of outlets available for you. Our vision statement here in Indiana, much like our national vision statement, but our vision statement is to build a Hoosier grassroots community. Now that word grassroots is very key. We're going to be touching on that a number of times this evening, but our vision is to build a Hoosier grassroots community of citizens and legislators dedicated to the constitutional concept of self-governance. So this is what we're always striving to achieve. Now, just to give you a few numbers about how we're doing here in the state of Indiana. We have, just in 2018, we just surpassed the 30,000 supporter mark here in the state. 30,000 supporters. Those are individuals, those are citizens like you and I that have signed our petition and in support of Convention of States. Now, we've been experiencing the past few years tremendous growth here in the state of Indiana. We've been experiencing a 40% growth rate. So we're very, very proud of that. Our goal for 2019 is to hit 40,000 supporters. So if we continue on the rate that we've been going the past couple years, we should easily achieve that goal. But again, the goal for 2019 is to hit 40,000 supporters. Among those supporters, we have about 2,500 individuals that have expressed a willingness to volunteer in some form or another, depending on what is needed at any particular time. So about 2,500 volunteers. Now, from that, we have in leadership positions, we have about 32 people right now in various leadership positions. Now let's talk about leadership here. Again, here comes the website that I mentioned earlier, conventionofstates.com. If you go to the website, select the menu option, Take Action, you can scroll down and you can look at the various volunteer leadership positions that we have available. And I would encourage you, if you're interested at all in perhaps getting more involved in Convention of States here in Indiana, please go to the website and look at the positions that we have. If anyone is of interest to you, go ahead and open it up, read more about it, make application. You're not obligated in any way, but make application, and that will then trigger, your name will appear on a report where then one of us will be in contact with you to further discuss your interest. So again, I encourage you to do this. We're always looking for more leaders in the state here. All right, let's get into the basics then of Convention of States. The basics, basically, we have three aspects, three categories in our basics: the problem, the solution, and the plan. We're going to touch on each one of these. The problem is basically that we think our federal government's out of control and lacks the will and the courage to make the necessary structural changes to correct this. And we're not going to go into great detail on these this evening, but this is basically what we see. We see as the problem. Now, as part of that problem, we see three main abuses that we believe the federal government is guilty of. And number one is the debt. The debt we know is in excess of $21 trillion, and we know that nothing is seriously being done to address this abuse. So that's the first first abuse that we see in the federal government. The second abuse has to do with the regulatory crisis in this country. The administrative state in our government has become literally the fourth branch of government. Now, I know the current administration is taking some steps to eliminate some regulations, but a great deal more needs to be done. But Also, what needs to be done is to curtail the ability to create more and more regulations. So there needs to be some control there. And so this is the second area, second abuse. The third abuse has to do with the loss of state sovereignty. You know, when our country was founded, the concept of dual federalism was in place, where the federal government and the states would share power. Well, over time, that has gone way out of balance and favors much, much more the federal government. So the states, in essence, have been losing their sovereignty. Well, let's talk about the solution. And this is the main thing. This is what we're all about in Convention of States. We feel that we want to see an Article 5 Convention of States conducted for the purpose of amending the Constitution. Now let's go into this a little bit deeper. Article 5 of the Constitution describes two methods of amending the Constitution. The first method, the method that we're most familiar with, is that amendments can be proposed based on 2/3 of Congress approving proposed amendments. Any amendments that are proposed then would go to the state legislatures for ratification, and that ratification process would require 3/4 of the states to ratify any proposed amendment. 3/4 of the states, that's 38 states. Well, also in Article 5 is a second method of amending the Constitution. And this is what we're all about. This is what we're proposing here. If 2/3 of the state legislatures, that would be 34 states, if 2/3 of the state legislatures apply to conduct a convention of states, the convention has to be conducted, and any proposed amendments that would come out of the convention would then have to go through the same ratification process as an amendment proposed under the first method. Again, 38 states or 3/4 of the state legislatures would have to ratify any proposed amendment. So the key here is that the states are calling this convention, and it takes 2/3 of the states, state legislatures, 34, to call this convention. Now, we currently have 12 states that have made application, or we will also refer it to as a resolution, passed a resolution, calling for this convention. 12 states have done this to date, and Indiana is one of those 12 states. We were the 6th state to pass the resolution calling for a convention of states. Okay. Now, our plan to bring this about has actually two aspects to it. The first is the application strategy, or the resolution. As I mentioned to you, that each state has to make application to conduct this convention. We have already drawn up that application form. We've already structured it, and so we're just trying to get 34 states to utilize that resolution to call for a convention of states. In that resolution, we call for three things. Number one would be fiscal responsibility, fiscal restraints to address the debt issue, control spending, balance budget. The second would be to reduce the federal control that exists. And the third area would be term limits on Congress, as well as term limits on the federal judiciary, which would include Supreme Court judges. So that's what we're all about. Again, these are the basics, and we are making a great headway. I think as I mentioned earlier, We have some 30,000 supporters here in the state of Indiana. Nationally, we're at about 3.7 million supporters, and we are now functioning and located in all 50 states. So we're really making headway, and we would welcome certainly your involvement. So let's get back to our presentation. And at this time, I'm going to get rid of the PowerPoint here, hopefully. And then I want to bring on our guest for this evening. As I mentioned to you earlier, Rodney Huckelberry. Hi, Rodney.
Hey, Dale. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on for us tonight. Rodney lives in Missouri, so I understand you've already dug yourself out of the snow, right?
Yeah, I did. It was somewhere between 13 and 15 inches. We haven't had one like that since about 1982. I kind of remember that when I lived in Illinois at that time.
Really? 1982, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't get near that much here where we're located. I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I think we got maybe 4 inches, but it was worse south of us. So anyway, the first thing I would like for you to do, Rodney, as we ask of every guest that we have on our broadcast, to tell us your story about how you got involved in Convention Estates, and tell us how did this all come about for you?
Yeah, well, I live in Missouri. I was born in Illinois, but my story is Indiana related, by the way. Back in 2013, well, I'll start a little bit before that. Air Force veteran, and served for the country, and I was left there, went to college, and then worked for Boeing. And at the time I joined Convention Estates, I was still working for Boeing. I've retired since then to be a full-time volunteer for Convention Estates. I was in my garage one day, and I had the radio on. I don't get to listen to Mark Levin a lot because I'm out and about and around, and it's just here and there. So it was by fate or coincidence that I happened to have him on while I was in the garage one day, and it's usually just background noise for me. And I happened to hear the word Constitution and Convention of States being talked about, and I knew nothing about it at the time. What it was Mark Levin talking to Senator David Long from Indiana. And yeah, can you still hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry. You said Senator Long, and I just
David Long from Indiana.
Yeah.
And they were talking about this project called Convention of States, and are you back?
Yeah, it looks like we're having a little technical difficulty. Looks okay right now. Go ahead.
Okay, you kind of froze again, so you might not be able to hear me. So anyway, David Long and Mark Levin were talking about Convention of States and the Constitution and the state of our country. And I had just started a small liberty group in the area I lived in Missouri that spring. And it was because I'd kind of given up on everything I'd seen around me. This was after the Tea Parties started and all that. And the Tea Party, like 2013, they started in 2010. And I didn't see a whole lot really happening to save the country at the time. So me and another guy started this little group, and we got a few members going. It was election year that year, I think, and we had politicians come in, interview or grow in the group, and doing all the right things. And then this popped up on Mark Levin. And I looked into it. I don't jump on things just on a whim. And so I looked into it to see if this was real. I mean, just the idea that it was an Article 5 and we could save our country through the Constitution. It was just amazing. So after looking into it, I got involved. And it came to the point that I had to leave that group They eventually disbanded, but unfortunately, but I was on the right track, a better track for saving the country. And so I was one of several few in 2013 to join. In Missouri, it was me and another guy who didn't want to be state director, but ended up being state director eventually. And I was working with him and basically doing all of Dale said there was 32 leaders in Indiana. It was me and him. And I didn't grow the team by myself, but found a few here and there, and we started working together. And eventually we had a really good sized team all over the state of Missouri. And we managed to get the resolution passed in Missouri in 2016. And here I am today. Well, after all that effort, there was a guy in my place as the regional director for the states that passed the resolution. And he realized that he needed to really be in a different role. And they started looking for somebody. And they tapped me on the shoulder. I had no idea. I didn't ask for this role. So here I am today.
All right. Well, okay, great, Ryan. The big story is, what do you do as a regional director?
Yeah, I'm a servant leader. All of us leaders are. As a regional director, I have the 12 states that pass the resolution, and I do my darndest to be there when they call on me, when they need me for advice, or there's some problem they can't solve, or they need some guidance. I attend their state strategy meetings when they have them and work with the teams on helping to build the teams and provide the needs for the teams in each of the 12 past states. I do have New York, by the way, as a side. There's a long story behind that, but I'm not going to get into it here.
Okay.
The other regional directors are much like me, but the other regional directors have states that have not passed the resolution.
Okay,
So
well, that's kind of a key term there that you're using. The past states. For our listeners, can you define again what a past state is?
Yeah, so a past state is, we've got 12 of them, and they had great teams that managed to grow their teams, educate legislators in every state on what a convention of states and what Article 5 is, and work with their legislators and their grassroots to attend committee meetings and convince the legislators to pass the resolution. So we have 12 states that have passed the Convention of States resolution. We're looking for a bunch more this year, and I think we're going to do it.
Yeah, we're hoping to get more this year. That would really, really be great. Well, I'm going to bring on a map that we've been using here in Convention of States, and I know you wanted to talk about this, Rodney, so hopefully you can see that all right. But there's a lot of information on this map, and pardon me, can you see it okay?
Go ahead. It was freezing up again. So,
but there's a lot of information on this map, and
are you still there, Dale?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Hello.
You should.
Hi, Dale. I don't know if anybody can hear me, so I'll go ahead and talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Looks like I lost Dale. So this map here, we've done some polling recently. The 12 states that you'll see on there, it says Convention of the Resolution passed. And you've got Arizona, Alaska, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Missouri, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Indiana, and North Dakota. All the great states. And in this polling here, you see that this is polling we've done over the past year, since the beginning of maybe last year. And what it's showing there is there's 2/3 of each state that's been polled, or at least 2/3, sometimes more, And this is people from all parties. You see there at the bottom, it's got a Republican one, but there's a Democrat one, and then there's other that includes independent and libertarian and all of those. So you have the majority of the people basically in the country are starting to understand a convention of states, and they support the Article 5 method for fixing the structural problems we have in our country.
Okay, all right. I'm going to take that down. Okay, can you hear me now, Rodney?
I think it ended.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Can you still hear me, Dale?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
So I could go on a little bit more with the past states and what they do. If anybody can hear me, I don't know if they can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me grab something over here first, just real quick. The luxury of working out of the house. So in the past states, some states they need to prepare for a convention. So after they pass the resolution, they need to continue with the next steps, which is a commissioner selection to the resolution. That's where you go.
Well, looks like we lost you there, Rodney. You froze up on us. All right, I'm going to take Rodney out. It looks like we lost him. Hopefully everyone can still hear me okay. This is part of what we run into as a doing a live broadcast like this. So I want to close the broadcast this evening with just to let you know that our next broadcast will be on January 21st, and we will be broadcasting every Monday evening. So the next one is January 21st, 7 p.m. So I want to close the broadcast this evening with one of my favorite quotes again, and that is a quote from our president of Convention of States, Mark Meckler. And basically he's saying that the quote is that we have one question facing our country right now, and the question's not what should we do? The question is who will decide? So I think that's basically sums up what we're all about. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and look forward to being with you again on Monday, the 21st of January, 7 p.m. Good night, everyone.